So let me throw that out. If you were to go back and talk to your newlywed self, what marriage advice would you give?
You know what? I'll go first.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Welcome to A Better Us, and welcome to our home.
You know, it's been said that marriage is the only activity where the rookies tend to do better than the veterans.
You know, that honeymoon stage where everything they do is just so cute.
Gotta love the honeymoon stage, eh? But it doesn't take long for real life to set in, kicking cuteness to the curb.
And you find yourself wishing you would have known then what you know now.
Well, today, just the guys of A Better Us are in the workshop asking ourselves the same question that the girls were asked recently. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your newlywed self?
And I, for one, am especially interested in your answer. And to help us get through married life today, our Loveology segment features Dr. Jonathan Hoover. And he'll help us navigate conflict when our response types can be so different.
Right. Well, our kitchen couples will be all over that.
Yeah.
So stay with us. Hey, welcome to the workshop. We're hanging out with the guys of A Better Us.
Come on.
And it's good stuff. We have Eric Maines, Mike Pinball Clemens, and we have Dan McCauley. And so we're talking home improvement here, and you know, not the regular type of you know, like Tim the Toolman Taylor home improvement. I love that show. That was fun. But we're talking about you know, maybe some tools that we could use in our marriage and our families, things that maybe we've learned over the years.
Figuring out the nuts and bolts.
The nuts and the bolts.
That's right.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, filing off those rough edges and trying to hit the nail on the head and
Learn how to not be a tool.
not be a tool. Okay.
How to make the gears turn.
Okay.
How long do we want to keep going on this?
We better move along. Okay. But not long ago, I was watching our wives, the girls of A Better Us, do their thing. They call it Just Us Girls. And they did a segment where they asked the question. So Ann threw it out to the panel of the ladies there, and she said, if you could go back and talk to your newlywed self, what marriage advice would you give? And they had some pretty good things. You know what? Not to put pressure on us guys, but they were really good, what they had to say.
Oh, boy.
So, you know, we have to try to one-up them. No, I don't know. But we'll do our best anyway. But so let me throw that out. If you were to go back and talk to your newlywed self, what marriage advice would you give?
You know what? I'll go first. Because my newlywed self was only 8 years ago, less than 10 years ago was my newlywed self. And so I wrote two things down. The first one was prioritize time together away from Netflix. Because honestly, we do spend a lot of time together. So this was before kids. We spent a lot of time together, but a lot of it was in front of a screen. And so I would give that advice to myself, saying, hey, prioritize time together away from the screens, away from that kind of stuff. And the second one I had was be romantic in spontaneous ways, because I have learned in my years with Kara that she really loves that stuff. And so that could look like surprise road trips, or even random but thoughtful gifts. And so be romantic in spontaneous ways and spend more time together away from Netflix. Those are my advice to my newlywed self.
That kind of actually ties in with my first one.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about it, and that is don't stop chasing her. Never stop chasing her, because you know, my wife maybe took a little convincing at first, let's say. I had to chase her. There was a bunch of years where I chased her. You know, I wrote love letters, I sent gifts, I made mixtapes. That was a thing back in the day. I made her one that said, she always mocks me about it. It said that Maria Carey, because I misspelled Mariah Carey. And Mariah Carey was big in the 90s, but it was Maria Carey. Anyways.
Now, when you say love letters, you're not talking email.
No, it was
that
like
was-
pen on paper,
that was
love
old-fashioned,
letter,
okay.
Feather pen.
little smiley faces drawn, like the whole thing. We have a shoebox full of them. So don't stop chasing her. You know that, because I think that was part of maybe the attraction at first, and it answers that question. Like, to do it now answers that question. Would you do it all over again? But us men, we are goal oriented sometimes, and so it's like sometimes we chase after our wives, and then we got her. Okay, next. Now what's the next thing I'm gonna chase after, pour my time and attention into, and go after. And she's like, what? But we're like, she's like, that's a check the box. We accomplished, winning her over. She's ours now. Now what are we gonna do? So I think that would probably be high on what I would tell myself. And the other thing I think maybe it would just be prioritize giving over receiving, just across everything. Make her the object of our affection. Not that she's an object, but I use that word because it's taken from Scripture, how God lavishes His love on us, and we're the objects of His affection, and yet we're supposed to love our wives like Christ loved the church. So in that context, not making her an object, but in that context and wording, just pouring out our love that way, and making it all about her. It's not about having our way. It's about finding our way. Not about having my way. I'll say it that way. Not about having my way, but finding our way.
Well said.
So yeah.
Good.
I'd like to cheat on the question a little bit and go back a few days, right? Because as a newlywed, we're already married. I would actually marry her sooner. Right. And so we dated for 8 years, and part of that is we were both in university, right? But even after we got out of university, I was playing sport, and, I was trying to make sure that we had everything in place before I married her, right? So those last 4 years, I was trying to make everything right and everything perfect, and not understanding that she was the one that was going to make it right and make it perfect, right? And so from that standpoint, I would have married her sooner. But if I could go from there, I would tell my newlywed self to listen, right? To hear when she's not talking. Right? And really just being able to sense, because they do a great job of communicating without communicating a lot, right? We often think of them as over communicators, right? But they really have a real intelligence about things, and so being able to hear her when she's not talking, and the other thing is I would write down a lot more. I think there are some memories, some things that we have lost over the years, and God's
journal,
yes,
you're saying,
yes, that's right.
basically, yeah.
That's right. And so God's timing, He might bring those things back to us in different ways, right? But that's the other thing. I think I'd write more.
Good.
But you, Dad?
For me, you're putting me on the spot now. Okay. One of the things, I remember about a year into our marriage, someone asked me, so what have you learned about marriage, about women? And I said, how emotional they are. I said, I just don't get it. Why is it so emotional? I would just always, I would think that they're strange, they're weird or whatever. But so I would say to my newlywed self, Ron, cut her some slack.
Yes.
She's wired differently than you.
Right.
And that's okay. Because God creates us different, and God actually draws us to a spouse who can fill where we're weak. I've learned a lot from sitting down and talking to Ann. She picks up on things that I just am oblivious to when it comes to interpersonal relationships and things, and I can learn a lot from her. But just understanding that, okay, yeah, she is wired differently, but it brings such a specialness to our marriage that wouldn't otherwise be there, and differences are okay. And I needed to learn that that if she is emotional about something and the feelings, I do need to listen. Like you say, you need to listen for the emotions, not just the issue that I try to fix. And like in the shop here, we're Mr. Fix-Its, and we want to just fix it right away. But to listen to the emotions behind it and empathize with her and not try to jump in with that quick fix. And so that's one of them. And then another one, Mike Holmes is kind of pretty well-known guy for being Mr. Fix-It and being the workshop guy.
Yeah.
And his motto is "Make it right."
Yeah.
You gotta make it right. Yes. And so I think in our relationships, just to twist his phrase a little bit of the meaning, if you do something that it maybe caused a little hurt, some friction, and there's a bit of a wall there, I like to tell guys, you be the hero.
That's right.
We all want to be heroes, right? We look at the superhero movies, we love them, but we want to be heroes. But in your marriage, in that relationship, you be the hero.
Right.
A lot of the times, the thing that makes them the hero is the sacrifice they make.
Yeah.
And so, I can see it. Sacrifice and be the hero.
Yeah, and sometimes it's sacrificing your pride and your selfishness, because we just say, I'm not going to say I'm sorry. That. But if you be the first one, you be the hero, take the first step. Even if you don't think you're the one at fault, you can apologize for your part in it and whatever, your reaction to it, your defensive-ness that you had or whatever. So there's our pieces of advice to our newlywed selves.
Yes.
Some little tools maybe that have helped us and maybe could help you as well as we're in the workshop here. Yeah. Guys, it's been a good discussion.
Really good one.
I like it. I need to talk to my now self sometimes and say the same thing. But thanks for joining us for this segment, and stay with us. More Better Us to come.
I think what helps me is when I hear from him, I want to work this out too. We're going to figure it out. We're okay. Just give me a minute.
Right.
And
Will that work? I'm just asking. I'm going to try that.
Missed an episode of A Better Us? No problem. Visit abetterus.tv and click watch, where you can enjoy past episodes and even share them with your friends. Each episode is packed with practical advice to help you and your relationship become a better us. While you're there, click subscribe to receive your free weekly Marriage Moment email. Also like us on Facebook to receive program previews, news about upcoming events, and inspirational quotes. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
Well, we've said it a million times, conflict's inevitable. Doesn't matter how loving you are, you're going to have conflict. But some people, when it comes to resolving the conflict, they want it resolved right now. And so they're kind of aggressive about doing that. How can we help that person? Because that's not always helpful, particularly when they're married to somebody that is retreating from it, right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, Les, there's two kinds of people in this world, and they typically marry each other. There's runners and chasers, right? So a runner is the person who says, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. Drop it. Forget it. I don't want to deal with this right now. And a chaser is the person that says, I'm not going to let you walk away from me. We're going to have this conversation right now. We're going to deal with this, right? And here's what I've learned in 11 years of coaching couples, and that is there's no terminal velocity for that fight. There's a law of runners and chasers. The faster a runner runs, the faster a chaser chases, and the faster a chaser chases, the faster a runner runs.
Right.
So I think the question is, how do we bring a little bit of calm to this situation where we're accidentally egging each other on to these destructive behaviors? And so part of it is to understand, why is this threatening the other person? I've worked with so many withdrawers, and they all tell me, I feel controlled, I feel boxed in, I feel pinned down, hemmed in, I don't have time to think, I'm feeling very overwhelmed. And even though I'm not the kind of person who would snap at somebody, because I'm feeling boxed in the corner, if they don't give me some space, I'm going to snap at them. And then the chaser is saying, I feel like they're saying, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it for them to have this conversation with me. Like I really feel like they're, cutting me out. They don't even want to be in this relationship with me in the moment, right? So one of the best things we can do is speak to that fear that we're accidentally triggering in the other person.
Yeah.
So if I'm a chaser, If I tell that other person, look, I'm not taking you on, I'm not trying to pin you in, I can give you a little bit of time to process this, but it's super important to me that we talk about this because it really is important to me. Just as for the person that's typically a runner, I'm that person, I'm an Olympic runner, I'll get as far away from that conflict as fast as I can, right? For that person to be able to say to the other person, we're okay, and it's gonna be okay, and I care about you, I need a little bit of space to process this, and I'm not going to ignore it. We're gonna talk about this. That can be huge at bringing a little bit of calm to that emotional moment.
That's so wise. It's that scenario. I always get this picture of the husband and wife where the wife is retreating. The husband wants to solve it and he's chasing her all over the house. We got to talk about this right now. And, she eventually ends up in the bathroom and the door's closed and he stands outside of it. And, well, you're going to have to come out of there sometime. And I'm going to be standing here waiting for you. Right. And so it creates this dynamic that just exacerbates the conflict. So I love it that when, as you're saying, the person that's retreating, the person that's in the bathroom can go, hey, honey, we're okay. I need some time. Okay. And that person can then learn, okay, things will go better if I give him a little bit of space. Then we can come back and more rationally talk this thing through. So valuable.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, we are in the kitchen once again with our great kitchen couples, Mike and Diane, Clement, Dan and Danielle McCauley, and runners and chasers. That's pretty good stuff from Dr. Jonathan Hoover.
It sounds like a movie title, doesn't it?
Right?
Runners
Yeah.
and chasers.
I'm pretty sure I'm a runner, hon.
I'm
Would
pretty
you
sure
concur?
you are too.
Sometimes you want an answer to something, and I'm feeling, as he said, boxed in and just kind of thinking, oh,
But we have to
I don't want
talk
to
about this right now.
Right now.
We have
Yes.
to.
And I'm kind of saying, well, I need a little maybe space, a little time, and I need to noodle it a little bit in my brain, and but I don't know if I can give you an answer right now. So I'm definitely the runner, and I just kind of retreat at those times.
I have learned to kind of calm myself down. When I feel like I need an answer, we need to talk about this because it's important and someone's waiting or whatever, I need to kind of calm myself down and say, okay, it's not life and death this moment.
Right.
And he works best when I give him a little lead time and he can think it through. And then when he comes back, he's loaded with wisdom. He's got so much wisdom. And then
you think so.
And then, well, you do, yeah. And then when I come and kind of, this is what we need to talk about, you've already prepared yourself and you're ready. So as a chaser, I've had to learn how to kind of calm myself down and slow down and then work with you. Yeah, I don't know, you guys, did you find yourselves in there? Are you runner, chaser?
I'm a runner,
Yeah.
but I can also be a chaser as well. So I find
You're a
that I'm
runner with
little
chaser
bit,
tendencies.
Right.
Okay.
That sounds like our
Right, so I
dog
could
that
be-
chases his tail sometimes.
those little paws we hear walking around the kitchen right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I find that I'm a little bit of both, and because Michael is more of the conversationalist, I find that he is more of a chaser. Right? I'll let you answer your own, but I find that he's more of a chaser, and I tend to just like, oh yeah, okay, just give me a minute, and that minute turns into an hour, and then 2 hours, and then he's like, oh well, another minute, please, right? So sometimes I just, and I realize that, okay, you need to just gather your thoughts, get yourself together, and have this conversation. Right? Because the more you dodge it, then the worse it's gonna get. So just have the conversation.
As a guy who sort of ran for a living, chasing and running, right? Either one of them will suit, right? And sometimes chasing is the way to go, and or you feel that's the way to go, and it's not, right? And so you relent, right? And so I've learned to chase and I've learned to run, yeah. And so I think naturally I probably because I am a talker, I like to go ahead and sort of put things on the table, yes. But I've also come to understand that now is not always the right time.
Yeah. And that leaves us. So,
Runner.
I was going to say, at the
Chaser.
very beginning of our relationship, I was the runner and you were the chaser.
Oh, we're talking about courting now. That's different.
But ever since then, it has flipped. I'm the chaser, he's the runner.
Once I caught her, she turned around and started chasing me. And I started running again.
When the conflict ensued, I'm like you said, Anne, like I just want to deal with it and we have to get this worked out now. And I think what helps me is when I hear from him, I want to work this out too. We're going to figure it out. We're okay. Just give me a minute.
Right.
And
Will that work? I'm asking. I'm going to try that.
And how long is your minute that you need?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends.
He's been known to have his little man cave where he needs to process. He needs to process. I think I process at a much more rapid pace than you do.
Yeah, no, I'm a slower processor for sure. I think my favorite phrase from that teaching was where he said that we're accidentally egging each other on.
Yeah.
And that was just like a light bulb for me, because I feel like as we've talked about on so many different, really this crosses so many different facets of things we've talked about on A Better Us, and we accidentally egg each other on. Right, where we marry someone who's very different than us across the board. It just happens, male, female, obviously, but then other even personalities, difference, and we accidentally egg each other on these different things. But then he says the thing to get through it is to talk about it, like to kind of pull yourself out of the emotion, really, of the moment, and I think this again applies to so many different subjects. So press pause, whether it's press pause and pray, press pause and let's come back to it, whatever. But pull yourself out of the emotion of it and have the wisdom to say, we're okay, like he's saying to say, but we're going to talk about this, but to realize, okay, what is the pull myself out of the emotion of it for a second and think, what is the fear in me that's making me run, or what fear am I bringing out in her by running or whatever? Just that pause. And not egging each other on.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think that it triggers right into our deepest needs, especially as women, our deepest need of security. So if my chasing him to talk through the answer, come to a conclusion, is based out of my need to feel secure in this relationship, because if you're pushing me away, saying, I don't want to talk about this right now, I start feeling like insecure. Well, don't you care? Don't you want to work on this? Isn't what I think valuable in your mind? Like, isn't this something that we should be? So if it triggers something that's really deeply embedded in me, then that is worth talking about too, because it's something that goes across the board. It can relate to any situation you'll talk about, because you need to know that deeper inner need.
And for a guy whose kind of mega need is this honor and respect, I think if my wife is chasing me down and demanding answers now, and I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of feeling an attack against my need for respect. Respect me, respect my space right now.
It feels
respect
controlling.
You're feeling like you're controlling me, and respect my need to just kind of think things through and the way I operate, and so. This whole topic as runners and chasers has to do with conflict, and how do you deal with that? And then one of the things, and you mentioned it, Dan, about prayer, and sometimes not only prayer by yourself, but if you calm down enough and you're talking together, and maybe before you get to the solving part of it, just pray together. Well, how powerful is that? You're just kind of it's putting yourself aside in your own agendas and say, God, what's your agenda in this? Like, how would you want me to act and talk, and how do we come to agreement on this?
We're not running and chasing, we're together running to him.
Chasing him,
Exactly. And the good thing is, he's there. He's offered, like the Bible says, if you lack wisdom, ask, and he'll give it lavishly. But we just come to him together.
That's it. I love what you were saying, Dan, when he talked about the what's threatening about this? Like, what is it the tone of the conversation? Are you afraid of the tone that you use with one another with the conversation? It's important, Ron, like you were saying, I try to find myself when we're in that situation to just whisper a prayer and say, God, guard my lips. Like, whatever come out in this conversation, let it not be hurtful, let it not be, but guard my lips, because sometimes I have a tone, and I know that I have a tone. And so I want to say what's in my heart and what's on my mind, but there's a way to say it
without your lips sabotaging.
Exactly. And so it's important that you think about that before you go into the conversation.
And I think we as women, in general, we just need to embrace that. That's really good, Diane.
Right.
Yeah.
Both of you guys actually said we're talking about the mega need for the girl to feel secure and the need to be respected. And what I realize is if we both take care of each other that way, then we are both having our needs met.
That's good.
If we're doing it in a healthy way.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that when I am at my best, right, it's not about my needs, it's about her needs, right? And that's why I say I have learned to become a runner and a chaser, right? So, and when I'm at my best, I understand that even if she's retreating, right, doesn't mean that I can too. We don't have to be a runner and a chaser. We could both be, runners at some point if we need that space, right? And
that's good.
Good. All right, guys. This has been great. Thanks for tuning in. If you are watching maybe after this has gone to air and you're watching online or YouTube or something and you're saying, what do they talk about runners and chasers? Maybe you missed the teaching that was in front of it. You can look for Dr. Jonathan Hoover and see that segment and get the fuller understanding. But I love being able to listen to an expert and then just back talk it and just unpack it a little bit more.
All of our episodes of A Better Us are actually on our website at abetterus.tv, so you can catch up with us there too.
Lots more there too. Stay with us.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
Well, we've come to the end of another program, and we're so glad you've joined us.
We guys did our best in the workshop to construct some advice that we'd want our newlywed selves to hear if we could go back in time.
And you had some pretty good ideas too. We all could learn some things we do differently or better, but learning from our mistakes and moving on with God's help is one of the best ways to grow and become a better us. And we never stop that process, no matter how long we've been married.
Right. One of the growth areas that we often refer to on this program is dealing with conflict. And we heard from Dr. Jonathan Hoover that understanding our response types helps a lot, like knowing if you're a runner or a chaser.
Once you gain that kind of insight into how your spouse may be wired, it helps you to give a little more grace for the next time something flares up. Again, another opportunity to learn and to move on with God's help.
We say with God's help because we know firsthand the difference that a personal relationship with Jesus and prayer can make in a marriage. We can draw on His strength and His peace, especially in the tough times.
If you'd like to talk with someone about that, or maybe pray about something that's going on in your life, our prayer line is on the screen. Someone for our team would love to pray with you.
You can also visit our website at abetterus.tv for lots of marriage resources.
Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.